What's going on, guys? Kuro here. I know I'm late to this when it comes to like guys. I know there's a bunch of guys out there. There's guys for movement, defense, combat, you name it, combos. But even though I'm late to it, it's been like 2 weeks since release. The good thing about this guide in particular is there's been a lot of new techniques, new techs, and new discoveries players have found with Dragon Ball Sparking Zero when it comes to defense, movement, combat. So this video is mainly going to focus on defense only. This is going to be probably the most updated defense technique video there's going to be, but I just want to go through all of them that we have currently. So this is going to be very useful for beginners and intermediate level players. First, we're going to go through all the basics very quickly, very briefly, just so we're all clear and understand what button prompts or inputs there are for certain mechanics, certain moves, certain defense abilities. This will go through PlayStation only, so PS5. I will maybe, if there's a space on bottom left, bottom right, one of the corners, I'll put the conversion or the button equivalents to the Xbox controller. This will mainly focus on simple controls. I know a lot of people are on classic. I will try and put the classic control layouts when I can. I'll put in like brackets and a C just to make it more clear. I'll try to edit this as clear as possible, as clean as possible, so we all understand. I might use this video for myself as well in the future because I forget a lot, especially in Sparking Zero with the amount of mechanics there is. Now, defense techniques in Sparking Zero, there's abundant amount. There's literally a ridiculous amount of defense moves and mechanics you can employ in your kit in this game. To be honest, I feel like it's a bit too much. That's why this game is very layered when it comes to the combat mechanics. But I will go through all of them. I'll always advise people to learn the defense moves first before you hop into combos and labbing up your characters, because there's a lot more defensive options than offensive strategies. The game will be a lot more agitating if you think the best offense is the best defense. It's not. Defense is more important than offensive in my opinion. Editing Kuro here. I will be interjecting here and there because even while editing this video, there's even more tech, more strategies, new mechanics being discovered by players. So I will be adding these discoveries throughout this video.
We're going back to the basics.
I want to briefly talk about health recovery. You can actually recover some of your health when you swap your plays out, your character. So if I'm taking damage, I can swap Gohan with someone else like Goten. And in the meantime, Gohan will recover some amount of health. It won't be a lot. It will do its job basically. Instead of them dying, it's best you put them in a bench. In order to swap characters, you need that indicator top left or top right. Once that is present, you can swap characters now. Other ways to recover health is some characters when you transform, such as Broly. When you transform to Super Saiyan, he actually recovers some health. So now he's on one bar. So you gain a whole bar from transforming. This only applies to certain characters. Also, transformation, the perks also changes. So you might prefer Super Saiyan 1 over 2, even though the higher transformation, the better it is, the stronger it is. But not in this case. It could be stronger depending on your playstyle. Same with fusions. When you fuse, you can also recover health that way as well. The issue with fusion, it takes one of your characters, because of course it goes from 2 to 1 character. But you do get a big buff in health. It's best to use fusion when one of the characters that you need to fuse with is getting low in health. Block is simple, just R1 for simple controls. However, what you need to be careful with, you can block ki blast. If it's a strong ki blast, it's fine. But if it's a light ki blast, you have to be careful, because during the animation of deflecting, the opponent can use a super or special move on you. Because you're still in animation, you get hit by the special move. I've seen a lot of people use a tactic where they spam a lot of ki blast, and then because you're still deflecting, they abuse that opening to hit you with a special move.
This will finish it.
So there's 3 ways to guard. There's mid guard, high guard, and low guard. And each guard is suited for a certain attack your opponent does. So if your opponent does a high, strong attack, you want to block high. If you do a strong, low attack, you want to block low, especially when you do the leg sweeps. So when Picker does a high attack or up smash, basically, if you guard up, it stops him. But if I don't do a high guard, I get put into this state. He basically breaks my guard and I'm vulnerable here. Also take note, look at my key. It takes a whole ball when my guard breaks. And when it gets to 0, I get into this situation, which is the worst you can be. I literally can't do nothing, I can't charge, I can't block. I can't even get up from here. You have to wait until you get at least 1 bar up. Now you can move. So guard break can take a whole bar from a key. To get out of stun faster or when you run out of key, tap R1 and L1 while rotating both analog sticks. From testing, this takes like 3 to 4 seconds. It's the fastest option out of all the methods that exist. You can't press all the face buttons, meaning the shape buttons or the alphabet buttons for Xbox case, but this is much slower. R1, L1 plus the left and right analog stick, rotating both, it's the fastest way. There's also low guards. A lot of people like to use leg sweeps from below. If I don't guard low, if Picker does a high strong attack like so, it'll also break my guard, as well as taking a whole bar of my key. So these situations where my guard breaks is called a guard clash. So depending on what attack your opponent does, you have to be careful of. So either a high guard, low guard, or mid guard. Another tech you can use, which I just realized, if you hold the attack button and let go just before it connects, you normally see it by some blue sparkle indicator. If you let go just before it hits, you have to get a teleportation move, which is good if they're blocking. Say you're doing a high attack and they're blocking up, you might get punished afterwards. So if you want to stop yourself from getting staggered, you might want to do this vanishing move.
Get your hand off my Dende!
To stop throws, you can either block on time. They're actually quite lenient with the timing as well. It's not that strict with it. So you can even see Pickle's animation, and I'm still getting out by pressing it just afterwards. However, the other way to stop a grab is to grab yourself, but you get into this position right here, which is not good. This will tech it and you put it in a state of clashes or grab clash, which is kind of a bit orangey, so I wouldn't risk that. To recover yourself from getting blasted away, just press R1. For impact recovery, just press down on analog stick, specifically the left stick. If you want to rush back to your opponent, just press up on the left stick instead. You may be put into the state a lot where they do the down smash attacks or the down triangles. A lot of people abuse this attack, so this might be good to learn. Quite simple, up and X. For revenge counter, it's R3, click the analog stick on the right. For revenge counter, use it when you get hit. You can interrupt the opponent's attacks and the offense. Every time you use a revenge counter, it takes 2 skill points, as you can see by the top left indicator. And skill points are very useful for transformation or the potential parries as well in the game. You might want to keep your skill counts or your skill stock specifically for other things like transformations. As you can see, I have 5 skill points, but some of the transformation takes a different amount of skills. So Super Saiyan 1 and Great Saiyaman, they take 1, but Super Saiyan 2 takes 2 stocks.
Let's go beyond.
And now it's gone to 3 skill points, from 5 to 3 skill points as soon as it's transformed. Different transformations take a different amount of skill count, so be wary of that. It's good to note with skill count as well is when you go in Sparky, it takes 1. So 4, and it becomes 3, which explains why you can't go in Sparking as soon as you start the match. Certain characters have higher skill counts as well, depending on the character itself. So Broly, considering how strong he is, and his transformation as well, his max transformation, he has 6 skill counts compared to Master Roshi, who's only 4 skill count max. Revenge counters are mainly used to interrupt or stop your opponents from being too offensive. So it can be used during hit stun or when you're getting comboed or hits. It can be used for key blasts, mid range, long range, though I wouldn't recommend wasting skill counts on key blasts.
Counter! 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 Take this seriously.
If you find an opponent that uses a lot of revenge counters, what you can use to beat a revenge counter is perception, surprisingly. And if they use a lot of revenge counters, a whole circle, you get this animation, and you're free to punish afterwards as well. You can possibly dash through a revenge counter if you press X at the right time, i.e. the dash. But this mainly works when you know the habits of your opponent. If they spam revenge counters a lot, or you predict it, you can square, attack, and dash with X immediately, and this will let you phase through the revenge counter, allowing you to pull off a punish. Perception is done with a circle button for simple controls, and you can abuse this. It doesn't take anything besides your key, it gradually takes your key away. So if I hold it right now, see how it gradually goes down. If the opponent attacks, you just hold on it. It's basically 3 parries. Unlike the revenge counter, it doesn't take a skill count, but it's not as effective as our revenge counter. The problem with perception, it does not work for key blast. Normally players use a key blast when their opponent uses a lot of perception, or that's one of their bad habits. Other ways to solve perception is grab as well. However, super perception, which is done by the same button circle, this only happens when your opponent does a strong attack where they blast you away. The problem with this, it actually takes a skill count. But again, unlike revenge counter, this only takes 1. Another thing with perception you can use is Sonic Sway. You know, the famous Sonic Sway, the IPO basically. To initiate this, you press circle just before you get hit. The timing is harder than you think, especially with how fast the combat is. But when you get a Sonic Sway, you can see the key of the opponent, it goes down. And it takes a whole bar as well, so it's quite useful. Another easy way to do it is to block, and then you can use perception in the middle of the onslaught. So if you attack right now and you press it, sometimes you get perception. But to always 100% guarantee a Sonic Sway while you block and they attack you is to use perception after the second hit. I use it just after the second hit, and it's always guaranteed a Sonic Sway. This is useful for those who always spam this typical square attacks. It can work in other moments in the combos, but it's not as guaranteed. You have to do it just before they hit you. Also, Sonic Sway doesn't take any of your key, but it does for the opponent. Good thing you're using sparking sway during a block is that it's very effective against sparking opponents. So when in sparking mode, they can go extremely aggressive. They can hit you with a 20 hit combo. So you can just block and press circle, and if you time it well, you can get sonic sway. So it gives you an opening as well, so either to attack or again run away from the sparking opponent. Stop! Now going to super counter. Super counter is getting more useful as the meta goes on. Like less people are using perception, revenge counters, and they're resulting more to super counters instead.
You digging in me, you digging in me, you digging in me.
Super counter is the most effective way to stop basically back shots. That's not a term I made up, that's just a term the SparkingZero fandom has made. So when you get hit from behind, you're basically vulnerable, you can't block, you can't teleport. However, you can use super counters, which is up and square. But you have to do up and square just in time. Just when the player hits you, you press up and square. That'll help prevent your back from getting blown out. It doesn't just only work when you get hit from behind, it can also work when you hit from in front of you. Like here, when Piccolo hits me, I can do up and square just in time. And it stops it. Like that. But the timing is hard, I'll be honest. Super counter is the hardest thing to pull off when it comes to countering mechanics in this game. Unlike perception and revenge counters, which is just one button, or if you're using classic controller, it could be 2 buttons. Or super counter is basically 2 button prompts. It's up on a left analog stick as well as square. And this is all about timing. You have to perfectly time this. So while Z counter is easy to do, it's the most popular one among players as well. Super counters should be what you're striving to perfect. You can do super counters while blocking, which is quite useful. The good thing about this tech is that you're less likely to get punished, because even if you fail the timing of the super counter, the blocking will be a backup and it'll be used as a safety measure. So if you're getting overwhelmed with a lot of basic attacks, try to pull off a super counter during the combo from your opponent. Super counters can get super counter itself. Yes, funnily enough. So you could have a super counter battle instead of a Z counter battle, just like this clip right here. Additionally, you can vanish a super counter, i.e. you can Z counter a super counter. The good thing with guards, if you time it correctly, you time it just when the opponent hits you, you get something called high speed evasion, which basically makes you evade it just in the nick of time. And it gives you a bit of an opening, so it's actually better than normal guard. Like so. The best advice I would say for timing those phases or dodging attacks with R1 is best to hold it once. Do not press it, let go, trying to time it consecutively. It's best to hold it once, because otherwise you can get punished harsh if you flop the timing. Z counters is easy. You just press R1 just before the opponent hits you. Z counters can also take some of your key. Z counters is another mechanic that everyone hates, because you get put into those scenarios where they keep fast stepping behind you. Basically, Kuda's favorite technique.
It's called instant transmission.
I know. It's one of my favorite techniques.
Your favorites?
So Z counter is basically just vanishing. It's basically when you get hit by a follow-up, you press R1 to block just in time, it will let you vanish through these attacks. And vanishing through these follow-ups is known as a Z counter. There's no perfect way to stop a Z counter, however, what you could do is do a super counter before the loop sequence even starts. That way it will prevent you from getting into these Z counter cycles. However, this is riskier because pulling off a super counter is harder than a Z counter. The SparkingZero community just found a new discovery, and that is, while you can't 100% escape a Z counter loop, however, certain characters, in this case Trunks and Tapion, yes, the 2 sword-based users, and it has to be Trunks Super or Trunks Z that has the sword. But with these 2 characters with the sword, you can actually sidestep, in this case press X in standard controls, after a vanishing attacks, so that these 2 can potentially stop the vanishing cycles. So if you see in this example right here, if you time the dash, the sidestep, the X button, as soon as the enemy appears, it will let you dash through it, allowing you to punish, and it will stop the cycle entirely. I thought every sword user can do this, but from testing, I tried it with Janemba, it didn't work. I tried it with Dabura and it didn't work. People are saying every character can do this, can pull it off, but I swear I tried it so hard with so many other characters, and I found it the easiest with Trunks with the sword and Tapion. I think I pulled off once out of like 50 tries with Vegito, so you guys could correct me on this. And I don't know if that's even the same tech, so you guys could correct me on this if every character can do this. Another defensive option is a rush high speed movements, which is basically attack, and R1. Depending on what direction you press R1 at, you can put it in different positions. So if I do attack R1 with the up direction, it will put me behind the opponent, or the opposite side. If you go diagonal top left or top right, it will basically put you to the side of the character. However, one of the better things to do with this is to press backwards. If you do backwards R1, it'll put you away from the opponent.
He just fell over and died.
This is good to keep distance from your oppositions and gives you more room and space to work with, especially if you're fighting someone who's like a masher who would use a special move as soon as they get up, or perception or revenge counters. So you might want to use feints to go back, and you can use a special move, or you can just go in. Back step is also another thing. You don't need to just rely on R1. So you can do square, square, back X. So you can interrupt your combo and just do back X. This also works the other direction as well. I know this is regarded as movement, but I think these movement in specific are very useful for covering yourself and keeping distance. Speaking of movement, when you're far away from the opponent, when you press X, it's basically a fast dash. But when you get into the vicinity, basically when you get close to the player, instead of going fast dashes, there'll be these smooth ones, these motion blur movements. So while it's not as fast as the normal dashes when you're further away, the good thing about these closer movements is that there's iframes or invincibility frames. So when you're trying to approach your opponent, you might want to dash first and then attack, especially when you're trying to use key blast, or maybe they start to be offensive first, try to attack you first. But there's more to this dash. So when you dash, you can also press R1 afterwards and you get an additional movement which also extends the iframes. So if I do dash and R1, you see how it lingers a bit longer, which is again useful if they're spamming a lot of key blasts. It's the same way you're going back as well. So if you attack it and you want to go back, you get a bit of iframes. But the good thing about this movement technique is that you can also use it when they dragon dash you. The scary thing about super dash is they can be positioned right behind you afterwards. One better way to resolve that or prevent you in that spot is to dash just before they approach you. So as soon as you see him start flying, press X, R1, and you get some iframe as well. Not only that, you'll be positioned face to face instead of your back face towards him. Another option is perception, but the scary thing is, again, perception doesn't work if you get hit from behind or the side. If you don't want to do the dash or the dodge where it has iframes, you can block, but just be careful. I would advise you to sway a bit, so move right or left a bit, then block, because if you don't, they will be behind you. For super dash, you can actually use vanishing attack or vanishing assault as soon as the opponent does a super dash. Timing is a bit tricky. You have to do the last second to throw off the enemy's tracking. You can use super counters for follow-up super dash attacks.
Prepare yourself.
This is not very useful, but if you want to flex, you could try this. I don't know what happens then. That's how crazy it looks. There's not much uses with this except for maybe mix up and confuse your opponent. Probably circling around him and try to be behind him. And it does take your key as well, so it might not be that useful. But it just looks so badass, so to me it's kind of worth using. If you're trying to flex, it doesn't really provide much defense. The way to do it is R2 to charge up. Obviously it's not charged because you're in spark him already. Press X to dash in, then afterwards press R1, spam R1, keep tapping the R1 button. Obviously it ran out by then. So R2 X, R1, R1, R1. Also, when you're sparking mode, you can spam R1 as much as you want until the key runs out. Normally you have to attack then press R1 to do that, but in this case, when you're in this state, you can abuse R1 as much as you want. Oh, now we've covered all the basics. I'm going to go through all the application of each defensive move option when it comes to perception, revenge counters, and so on. But the first problem you're going to face is the basic square combos that a lot of newbies will use with square, 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 and you get instant transmission here and there. The best way to stop it is press R1 as soon as they just about attack you or hit you. It works best when they blast you away in the basic square combo. Just before they hit you on the other side, when you get blasted away, you press R1 just in time and you dodge. This is quite fair, the timing. It's not like a very strict timing. But the issue with that, it can put you into a state again where you both are constantly transmissioning, when the best option is to use super counters, which is up and square. That was like my 5th attempt just then. That was hard to use. That's the problem with super counter. It's actually very strict. While R1 is much easier to do, but it's not as effective. Super counter is a risk reward factor kind of thing. But if you get it, you can actually punch your opponent in that little opening. I want to quickly go through that because that will be the first threat you'll have.
Go on!
When it comes to stopping special moves, you can either block them, but look, it takes chip damage. Another way, which is probably the best option, is just to dodge. Didn't work there. Specifically R2 and X. Like that. You can try dash, but like you've seen just then, I did get hit. See, it works there, but again, it's a very scary timing. If you want to be safe, again, R2 and X is probably the best option. But some special moves do track crazy, so be careful. Another way to stop special beam attack is either use your own special beam attack, but then you get a blast impact, which again, it can be RNG and very tedious when you keep seeing the animation. But if you want to flex on your opponent, you can use circle ball and perception. So not revenge counter, not all three. You want to click the analog. But if you press circle button, so you use a special move for a whole circle, bitch slap that way. But look at the skill counter, how much they use? They use 2. So again, this is another thing you have to be careful with. But you might ask, what about special moves where you can't block? So I know Broly doesn't have an unblockable special move. You can't block it, you can't bitch slap it, you can't basically use perception counter. However, if you press R1, the block button, if you press it right on time, you can actually phase through it. The best time to use it is when the blast is between you and the opponent, like that. If you do it too early, you get punished, or if you do it too late, you also get punished. It has to be within. Is when the blast is in the center between both of you, like that, and it's always like guaranteed. Be careful what distance. If you get too close to Piccolo like here, it can be very dangerous. So the timing is gonna be a lot earlier. I flopped it there. See, I'm very close to him. I had to press it immediately. I wasn't gonna wait until it gets between those two because I was already very close to him, so I wasn't gonna risk that. It also works when you just time it just before the end as well, but again, it's riskier.
Light grenade! Destroy everything!
Fooled ya!
Want a better way to stop a special move that's unblockable like Broly is? You use after image strike, try to dodge if you can. Good to know, if a character uses an unblockable super move very up close to you, you can pull off a Z counter, which means blocking at the right time during the actual cinematic of the specials. So if you're up very close to the opponent and they use a special move, basically gonna be impossible to time it. You have to have Spider-Man reflexes to make it easy on yourself, and again, this only applies when enemies right up your face and use a special move. You can actually use the block button or Z counter during the cinematic at a certain time. This is 100% confirmed of vanishing through the special. So like this example with Broly, as soon as he starts speaking, if you press R1 for standard controls, and if you hold on the block button from this point onwards, it will guarantee a vanishing move or Z counter, allowing you to escape the unblockable special move. This works for every unblockable special move, you just need to know the timing during the cinematics. It's so scary. If you don't time it right, it's actually very scary. But again, this is unblockable, so it might be worth trying to time the block button anyways. If you can't dodge it, safest option is after image strike. So there's a lot of ways to stop special moves, like blocking, pressing R1, block just in time to teleport through it. And again, you can use perception, but it takes 2 stocks. But it might be worth the sacrifice because you will get some morality boost, but in turn he will feel demoralized. He'll be like, what the heck? Guys smacked my special move away. But again, just to be careful, because a lot of people what they do is spam a lot of normal beam attacks, a lot of blast. And if you're deflecting, if you're pressing R1 block and you're deflecting it, because you're in that animation state, you're gonna be vulnerable to special moves. A lot of players use that mechanic or strategy so much, which is kind of scary, which you have to be very careful with that. Even if you're deflecting it or you get hit by it, you're still stagnant in some way. And in that time, the opponent will use a special move on you.
I've had enough of you!
To start special rush attacks, the same as a beam attack, so just block. Dodging, I wouldn't risk that because it tracks very well. You can also phase through rush attacks as well, press it on at the right time. But if you want to go for ultimate disrespect, you can grab out of the animation from the rush attack, as you can see here. But this is hard to time. And depending on distance, it could be easier, it could be harder. If they're very close to you, don't risk this because the grab animation is so slow, it takes a long time to get out. It wouldn't work unless the enemy is far away. If the enemy is quite far away, good distance, and then use a rush attack, you can probably grab him out of the animation. It's hard to do, but if you get a lot of style points for that. That's very disrespectful if you can do that and pull off.
You're dead meat.
I'm going to discuss the weaknesses to vanishing attacks or ways to stop it. One is delay your attacks, then attack preemptively just before the opponent appears. Z counter also works, but that will put you into a loop. Blocking works, but you can't block immediately. As soon as the opponent reappears, that's when you block because your body or the counter model will be tracking the opponent. If you block too soon or you're holding block before the enemy does a vanishing assault, you will get hit from behind. So temporarily, do not block until the enemy just appears after a vanishing assault. Sidestep works really well, which may put you in a position where you might be behind the opponent instead, giving you a better advantage. Using your own vanishing assault against an opponent vanishing assault also works. But then again, this can be Z countered by the opponent. Ki blast is quite effective, but have to be initiated just as the enemy vanishes to track the opponent well. From testing, I found Ki blast to be quite good to punish vanishing assaults. I want to give as much options that there is in terms of stopping vanishing assaults, because in turn, this will help you to prevent yourself from getting into the backshot scenarios. So typical attack combos and instant transmission attacks like vanishing assaults can be stopped best by super counters. The positive of using a super counter is that you're not using ki, unlike a vanishing assault or Z counters. Z counter is the easiest options to use, but that's if you're willing to have a Z counter battle. And if you have much more ki, it probably is worth just doing Z counters, despite how monotonous that situation can be. Revenge counter does work as well, but will use 2 skill points. This could possibly be blocked as well, so it may not be worth risking and losing your skill points.
I like that body of yours. Change now!
It's good to know about this. This body swap thing is a nuisance at times. The only reason I talk about this specific character is because you might want to be able to stop this. So this body swap only is accessible when he's in sparking mode. It's basically his final moves. The video attack. Right there. So if he's able to get into this situation where he blasts your way, it's basically impossible to stop it at that stage, to stop the body swap. So when Captain Guinea's in sparking mode, just be careful. You might want to be more defensive than offensive, because if he gets you in a combo and he takes it up, you can't escape it. Or swap to your weaker character as soon as you can. Permanent body swap, you can't use the perks in that character, nor the special move either. But this also applies to the Guinea that they have as well. So Guinea himself, he can't use no special move or perks. Certain characters have perks like Yajirobe. Right now there's a big issue regarding that character. He's actually quite broken. He has this move where you can eat a Senzu bean and yes, the move fills full health. It goes from literally even like 1 pixel of health. If he eats a Senzu bean, he'll be full max health again. Do what you will with that information, but you gotta remember he will probably get nerfed. I think SparkingZero devs have confirmed it, that they're gonna do balance changes, and among those that they addressed was Yajirobe. Like, why did his name drop Yajirobe among every other characters that exist in SparkingZero? There's that 180 characters, and the name dropped Yajirobe, so I don't think he'll be as strong in the near future. I don't think he will be. If they do nerf it, hopefully it's not too drastic. Since we talk about character unique abilities, every character will differ with the D-pad special moves. So as you can see, go on here, he has full power. But with these specific perks, it requires certain amount of stocks. So full power requires 3 skill stock. Explosive wave requires 2. So full power just means you instantly become sparking mode. So if I do press R2 and press right D-pad, instantly sparking mode. A lot of cards have this. This is quite useful, but taking account takes 3 stocks. Another one that Gohan has, as well as many others, is Explosive Wave. The good thing about it is if you get attacked a lot, you can actually interrupt your opponent's offense temporarily by pressing, again, R2 up. I know the androids have this move. It's very good to push the opponent away when they're getting too aggressive. Always consider it takes 2 skill counts to use that. So that does take a hefty amount of skills. I also want to talk about this android as well, because he has this super armor, which is like false courage. Scary thing about this, he can do what he wants during this state, because again he has super armor, he can grab you, he can combo you.
Do not bother, it is futile.
Good to take note as well, androids do not charge ki, so if I press R2 nothing happens. Instead it charges by itself. But if I attack the opponent, it builds up gradually. So once the android gets to max ki, again through attacking your opponent, and it's gradually building over time, it's at this moment where you can actually charge with him. So now you can use this special move, Drain Life.
You are mine.
And look how much it heals a whole bar. A lot of people what they use his armor technique first, so the armor perk, and then go into special move. That way you can't be disturbed or interrupted.
Insect. Perish.
Oh my god, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck?
Alright, it's time to discuss one of the worst perks there is, which is After Image Strike. This is considered cancerous among the community, so do what you will. I do believe this probably will get nerfed, but After Image Strike, as you can see, it takes 3 stocks, so this, you can tell it's going to be quite strong. Now Master Roshi has to activate his After Image Strike. If I strike a Broly, no matter how strong Broly is, he ain't touching him. So the best way to start After Image Strike is grabs or ki blast, which is not many options you can use. Use special moves, keep your distance, stick with ki blast until it runs out, because it doesn't last that long. Also take into account when these guys go into these buffs using the perks, there tends to be an indicator underneath the key bar. So once that disappears, you know that ability is gone. So once Master Roshi activates False Courage, he has super armor. You can see by the indicator right there, you see the armor sign. But that is an indicator you can use for your opponent and yourself to know if you have the ability or not. I might think weak characters only have After Image Strike, but no, Super Saiyan 1 Vegito has it as well. Like I said before, different transformation has different perks. If I go to Super Saiyan Blue, with Vegito. He doesn't have after image strike anymore. So that covers everything with defense in Sparking Zero. If there's anything I missed, let me know in the comments below. There probably is something I missed. There may be new stuff and new discoveries people find in the near future. Because again, there's so many layers with this game when it comes to combat, which is good and a bad thing, because bad thing because it's very unpredictable, but also good because it keeps it very entertaining, albeit a bit crazy on balance at times. I may do videos on like movement and combat and the best offensive options, depending how this video does. But if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time.